So this video is going to show you how to take an item with a lot of negative space like this chair and draw it inside a bounding box. When you're drawing using proportions, one of the things that you need to remember is the height of the object compared to the width of the object. So in this drawing, we are going to be comparing those two things to get what's called a bounding box. So we're going to be taking the height and the width to create a box on our paper that represents the edges, the highest part, the lowest part, and the widest part of our object. So to get the correct proportions, you're going to take your pencil and hold it straight out in front of you. So your elbow should not be bent because then your proportions are going to change. You're going to hold it straight out in front of you and take your eraser and line it up with the part that is the most left. So this actually, the top part, is farther in than the bottom part. If I would hold my pencil straight up and down, you can see that it angles in. So the most left is the bottom of my chair, and then you're going to take your thumb and slide it so that it matches up with what is on the right. Now if you're left-handed, this is backwards, so you'll be lining your eraser up to what is the most right, and then your thumb to what is the most left. And you have measured the width of the object. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to show you that again. You're going to line your eraser up with what is the leftmost point of your object, so the widest part. And then line your thumb up with the rightmost edge of your object. Now that's the width of our object. We're going to compare that to the height. So I'm not pushing my pencil out, I'm not pulling it in, I am just rotating it vertically, and I'm going to use that straight up and down, arm pointed out, to help me figure out how tall this object is. So this is the width. Now I'm using the width like a measurement tool. So it is 1, 2 widths high. So the box that I make in my sketchbook needs to be 1 by 2. So if I would make this 2 inches across, it's 4 inches long. If I would make this 3 inches across, it's 6 inches long. So we're thinking of a ratio of 1 to 2. Okay, so we've got that math problem here. So if I would make my bounding box 3 inches wide, then I need to make it 6 inches long, because 3 by 6 is equal to 1 by 2. And you're going to try your best to make sure that you have right angles. I always like using another sheet of paper or even an envelope to ensure that my corners are right angles so that my box is true and square. So we have our bounding box. Now I'm going to work on drawing out my chair. I know that because I measured before that the bottom of the chair, that part, the bottom part right there, is the same height as the top part. So I'm going to draw a line directly in the middle of my box to represent that space. The top of the seat of the chair is here. Now I'm going to measure some other things using this proportion technique so I can mark out where the horizontal slats are, where the bottom is, where that back chair leg comes in, and where the seat bottom falls. I am going to be taking some measurements of where this falls compared to where this falls, compared to that, and that, and that, and the negative space in between. So I'm really going to be measuring how big this negative space is so that I can properly place everything on my drawing. So just like before, I'm going to use my pencil as a measuring tool, and I am going to measure the negative space between my tabletop and my support rung on my chair. So I'm going to use my thumb, measure that, and my support rung is about 1.5. 1, so that's 1, and then 2. All right, so if I would split this into multiple spaces, there's 1 space here, support rung, 2 spaces here, and then the top of the chair. I'm going to draw that on my sketchbook. So to place that support rung, I know that the top of the seat is here, so there's 1 space here, and then there's 2 spaces here, and these spaces need to be equal. So if I would separate this 3-inch space into 3 sections, the support rung is 1 inch from the bottom. So that's where my support rung is going to be placed. So I added the inch line in for my support rung. Now I'm going to figure out where the bottom of the seat is, doing the same thing I did before. So I know that the bottom of the seat, holding my arm all the way out, is where my thumb is, and the top of the seat is where my eraser is. And I'm going to use that as a measuring tool. So I'm going to measure down the actual side of the chair. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I would split this space from here to here into 5 sections. So on here, it's from top of the seat down these 3 inches into 5 sections. So I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know that's where the bottom of the seat is. So then that actual board for the top of the seat is probably about here. And I can erase some of these unnecessary markings. Something else that you want to consider while drawing is other sides of objects that you see. So on the blue leg on the chair, we see a tiny sliver of the left-hand side of this chair. So that's represented by another line. So this would be the front and this is the side. That comes back at a slight bit of an angle. And then on this leg, we see a slight bit of the side of the chair. So that's represented by another line. And again, that comes back at a slight bit of an angle. This we just see the front face of the blue leg and the front face of the red leg. Another thing that you can consider is how different parts of the chair connect to each other. So if we look at our chair, the red leg from the bottom continues up to the red back support, and then the red leg over here continues up to be the red back support over there. I know in my drawing the red back support is going to start right about here, and then the red back support over on this side is going to start right about here. So we're just going to make marks there because it doesn't actually go up straight. I looked and it's at a slight bit of an angle, so we're going to deal with angles in just a second. I told you we were going to deal with angles, right? So if you look at the chair, the yellow rung that goes from blue leg to red leg goes back on an angle. And the top of the chair is also at a slight angle. So we're going to learn how to check those angles. If we're going to start with the yellow rung, you hold your pencil straight out in front of you just like you're measuring. So don't point it away, don't point it towards you, hold it straight out in front, and you're just going to rotate it as if it's the arm of a clock until it matches the angle that you are trying to create. Now take a look at that angle. That's the angle that you are going to recreate in your drawing. So on yours, you might not have a lot of angles or you might have a ton of angles. So this is a very helpful tool. So when you get down to your paper, you know what angle you need to draw. And then the best way to check it, again, is hold your pencil out, turn that angle, and then I like to hold my paper up to make sure that the angle that I have drawn is the same. All right, now that you've seen me create the drawing for my object, or at least part of it, you've seen the techniques for how to use a pencil to measure height, measure width, and check angles. You are going to be doing the same thing for your object. Make sure that you use these tools of checking the width, comparing it to the height, checking the height of something, and comparing it to the height of something else to get a proportionally correct drawing. Don't forget to gauge and check those angles so that you get your drawing as detailed and as correct as possible. This is going to help you with your watercolor because a good painting is very difficult to get with a bad drawing, but you have a higher potential for a great painting with a great drawing. So add those details, check those problems, try and solve them one by one. You don't have to do it all at the same time. And remember, you can rewind this video and watch it again if you need help. We're here. Just ask.